Welcome back. We're going to do Job. Now, Job in the Bible, first of all, some people have difficult placing this guy. They try and put him before Abraham or something. Others place him way later. If they actually read the text of the Bible, they wouldn't have this problem. So I'm reading to you from Genesis 46:13. Let's see if I can show it to you. Who did it say? The sons of Issachar, Tola, Purva, and Job, and Shimon. That's what it says in Genesis. So, if you didn't watch my video on the patriarchs, you know that Esau and Esau are the same. That means it's within the same century event as Andronicus. That being said, the text that comes down to us today has been greatly modified. We're going to use the Septuagint version, obviously. I'll be dealing with why and other text, but let's just see if there was a Job that shows up in the exact time and place that we need him to be. First of all, he descended from Issachar. Issachar is Achios. We've seen the same people here. So let's just define who this person is. His name is Ninjan Adin Ayyub. Job, the same name. His friends, when he went into exile, which we'll be talking about, one of his friends is Eliphaz. The other one is Bildad. The other is Imad Adin Dingi, Zophar. And the other one is Ali Awad, Elihu. All the names that we guys match. As for his brothers, according to Genesis, Tola, Purva, and Shimon, from Genesis 46:13, Tola is the elite vanguard. Tulia, you find them in the Seljuk Arab army. We find the Purvia is the Fawa of the regional cohorts. And as for Shimon, that is the basically up at the what's this place called? Shimkov, up near Ukraine. So these are all people that are coming up. And so look, first of all the names of the places of the people. This is in Armenia. This is just to the east of Anatolia. And it's heading up the Black Sea on the other side. So that's where we're talking about. And they all line up somehow in the 12th century. How do you get all of these names and people all showing up again in the 12th century, unless this is when the text originally is talking about? Okay, let's talk about how this happened. So in the text that handed down to us, we have several sections. We have the poetry, generally from chapter 3 to 41. Of that, 38 to 41 is a bunch of conversation between Job and God. And then we have chapter 28, which is a hymn to wisdom, which I'm going to deal with in a minute. But there's a framework on the outside. That's chapter 1 and 2 and 42. That's the latest. That's the author that's very late. And perhaps the latest might be the text of Elihu, chapter 32 to 37. Those are his speeches, although that is debatable. One thing that's going to really blow up in this text is you don't see the name Yahweh in this very often. You see it in the framework. You see it in the conversation between Job and God. You do not see it other than one time in all that poetic material in the middle. You see Elohim or Allah all the time, every time. So, what happened? Ayyub succeeds his father Shadal. That is a nickname, by the way, an elite governor. So this is that probably Ezekiel, Isaac Angelo. He succeeds him under the regional commander Bildad. Why did these guys come into Job? Why they sit down with him for 7 days? Why did they come to him? That's what the text says. He's the greatest of all the men of East, massive like that. That's exactly what we see. There's a catechism. He had skin disease like this, psoriasis. He had gout. These are all things that happen to these people. and especially Ayyub. He takes a massive geopolitical gamble. He's defeated, and he's ferried across the Tigris River into exile. And this is when you get the raiding parties of the Syrian and Chaldeans. And then he takes counsel with his three friends. Again, what is the coincidence that it just happened to line up with this? The 12th century narrative. According to this text, this scene starts in heaven between the accuser, or Satan, and the Lord. And basically he accuses Job of, hey, you've only blessed him, why don't you curse him and see he's only serving you because you're giving him blessing. So that's the sort of gamble that goes on between Satan and Jehovah. Well, in this text, after he's struck by the skin disease, his sons are killed, house is falling, all these things that in the book of Job are built. They're built up in a very liturgical way. For instance, he'll come up and say, hey, the four corners of the roof fell down. That's the fourth time that the messenger has come out. And you get this sort of literary mapping on here. But then the actual poetry starts, and he starts talking in poetic form that is very similar to Arabian form that we see in Arabic text of the 12th century. And so they argue back and forth. And basically, to sum up an entire book here, I mean, we can go back into some of it. To sum up an entire book, these guys are accusing Job of not serving Allah, of not serving God. Job's saying, well, I don't know if he's punishing me or not, but I don't think I've done anything wrong. And they go back and forth, chapter to chapter, and it gets more heated. They get angrier and angrier and angrier. But I don't want to point out all of this back and forth at this moment, because I'm trying to locate these people in the chronology. That's my main thing. Chapter 28 is a hymn that's actually quoted by Job, by Ayyub. And he says, for silver there is a place from which it comes, and gold a place from where it is shifted, for iron comes out of the earth, and copper acquired like stone. And you get this poetry of stuff that of gold of Ophir, and the topaz of Ethiopia, and just things that are obvious poetic points. And we see this in 12th century Arabic poetry. Some of these exact sayings that are in chapter 28 somehow make it into the same time period. So let's just look at a few of these other things that actually fit. The land of Uz. This is the Gazel frontier. That's what it says in the Septuagint. It's linked to Astral. In fact, let me just show you that quickly. Land of... So, again, Armenia area, that region. If we, I'll get into some of these other ones here, just, okay, Behemoth and Leviathan, let's just quickly deal with them, because everyone wants to talk about them. I don't want to talk about this very much, but Behemoth is a massive unyielding bull or beast in Arabic text. Its foundation is on dry land, so it's not a brontosaurus. Lufia, or Leviathan, or Belahat, is in Arabic text, is a cosmic whale. So again, it's not a crocodile. Not what you think it is. By the way, it's a whale in Psalm 104 also, if you ever look that up. Again, I mentioned the skin condition of Ayyub. The three daughters. Oh, here's where it gets interesting. At least two of the daughters are known in secular history. Job lists three of them. Interesting. Jemina, Yemana, dove, symbol of peace. Cassia is the bark of spice, represents monopolization, spice trade. And Karen Hapach, or horn of anatomy, is luxury manufacturing. Interesting about this, if you actually look at his daughter, Siam Fatima Kahutan, Kazia, Lady of Syria, Damascus, and Ruba Anna Kitia, that can happen. So at least 2 of the daughters are attested to in Job genealogy. So never mind the theological issues of this book. We could do a whole nother video on this book. Maybe we will. The point is, all the people show up exactly where they're supposed to. They show up in the families they're supposed to. They have the daughters, they have the friends, they have the same poetry that they're supposed to in the 12th, early 13th century. This text was written probably over a couple of hundred years because there are different pieces that are added to it over time. The beasts all line up in the same time period. All of them line up in the same time period. And the only text, other than the book of Job, that really knows about Job is, I believe, Ezekiel and, which we'll get to later, and Genesis, and the book of Jazer also. By the way, the book of Jazer adds one more thing I want to mention about Job. The book of Jazer tells us that Job lives a very long time, and he's in the same generation as Balaam and Jethro. When they're dealing with the quote-unquote Pharaoh of Egypt, Pharaoh asked a bunch of questions. Jethro responds favorably, theologically right. Balaam obviously doesn't respond that way. Job is in between and can't make up his mind what's going on. And that's why, according to the book of Jazer, all these things were going to befall him later, because he, just undecided, and so he's sort of in the middle. That's the way the book of Jazer frames it. Interesting enough, if we allow that interpretation that his 140 years that he's given after this time, we do find another A of 140 years later. And if we map that 140 years on to the 12th century, he lines up right in the time of where we will place the early events of the later Exodus. So that's kind of interesting. So the point I want to make about this book of Job, what translation? I will obviously suggest the Septuagint. I also do use Robert Altair, but he's using the Masoretic text, so I have to be very cautious. Yet he has numerous footnotes on his translations of Job. One of the things he points out is one of the speeches at the end is cut off. So of his 3 friends that are constantly going back and forth, in the last speech, the last friend doesn't say anything. What, did he fall over and have a heart attack? Well, no, it looks like what's happened is a piece of the text, because the other friend before had settled quite a bit. So a piece of that text needs to be cut off. And some people have reconstructed that. But we can do, the point is, as far as the new chronology framework, as far as Tartarian framework goes, we find Job exactly where we expect him to see him. Right in the same time as Esau, right in the same area, connected to the tribe of Issachar, and we find him there. And we find all his friends there, and we find all the text that if they went to write a book about him, this is exactly what you would see. Thank you.